President Trump signing a new batch of executive orders today, including one to declassify the assassination files related to the Kennedys. He's also issuing a blunt message to business leaders around the globe.
It's day 4 of President Trump's new White House, and he's rolling out new executive orders nonstop. On Thursday, he signed a new executive order to release all records on the assassinations of former President John F. Kennedy, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. In the order, Trump says the target's families and the American people deserve the truth.
A lot of people are waiting for this for years, for decades. And everything will be revealed. Give that to RFK Jr.
Yes, sir.
While most of the files on the assassination of JFK have already been released, President Trump now says it's in the national interest to release any remaining ones. It's another fulfillment of his campaign promise. President Trump also signed a few other executive orders, including one to pardon 23 pro-life advocates arrested while protesting abortion clinics.
They should not have been prosecuted. This is a great honor to sign this.
One to create a new working group on cryptocurrency, and one to establish a council to advise him on new technologies. Meanwhile, speaking earlier at the World Economic Forum in Davos, President Trump sent a message to world economic leaders that America is back and open for business. He says the U.S. is entering an era of reduced regulations and more pro-business policies, but he also doubles down on his tariff threats and urging businesses to come to the U.S.
Come make your product in America, and we will give you among the lowest taxes of any nation on earth. But if you don't make your product in America, which is your prerogative, then very simply you will have to pay a tariff.
Another main message President Trump sends out is that he wants fairness and respect. He urges NATO members to spend 5% of their GDP on defense. He also criticizes an unfair relationship with China over massive trade deficits.
All we want is fairness. We just want a level playing field. We don't want to take advantage. We've been having massive deficits with China.
And this week, President Trump says he's considering a 10% tariffs on all Chinese goods, that to hold China accountable for its role allowing fentanyl to be flowing into Mexico and Canada and ultimately into the U.S. Reporting from the White House, Iris Tao, NTD News.
A judge blocking President Trump's effort to end automatic U.S. citizenship by birth, a move Republicans are pushing to cement into law. Trump
To hear the judge from the bench say that in his 40 years as a judge, he has never seen something so blatantly unconstitutional.
Federal Judge John Cooner temporarily blocks President Trump's executive order to end birthright citizenship for the children of illegal immigrants. Birthright citizenship generally means anyone born in the United States is automatically a U.S. citizen, largely seen as part of the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. Washington State Attorney General Nick Brown says the amendment would have to be changed to end birthright citizenship.
Not even the President of the United States can simply erase what it means to amend the Constitution and the process therein.
Changing a constitutional amendment would be extremely difficult, but Republicans don't think they have to. Republican Brian Babin has introduced a bill to end birthright citizenship.
Citizenship will be granted only to children born in the United States with at least one parent who is, 1, a U.S. citizen or national, number 2, a lawful permanent resident, and number 3, a lawful resident who is serving in the military.
Republicans believe the 14th Amendment doesn't automatically give citizenship to anyone born in the U.S. The amendment says, quote, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. Republicans point specifically to the requirement, quote, subject to the jurisdiction thereof.
A person in the United States illegally are not subject to the jurisdiction thereof, because that's what the 14th Amendment says. They got no Social Security number. They got no voter registration.
Republicans say they're confident their interpretation will win in court.
A lot of lower courts have to look at him, disagree, and then they're filed with the U.S. Supreme Court in order to make a decision. So, I mean, it could be upwards to a year. Who really knows?
Immigration lawyer Rosanna Berardi says she believes immigrants don't have to worry at the moment. She says there will be a long period of political banter.
Clients are worried. We're getting a lot of phone calls. People don't know what's going to happen. They're worried about their applications. They're worried about traveling.
Hundreds of protesters gathered in Los Angeles and Las Vegas to protest ending birthright citizenship.
Trump reacting to the judge's ruling, saying he would appeal. Here's what he said to reporters at the White House earlier today.
No, obviously we'll appeal it. They put it before a certain judge in Seattle, I guess, right? And there's no surprises with that judge.
Earlier today, Trump's Justice Department said it would vigorously defend the executive order. A spokesperson said, quote, "We look forward to presenting a full merits argument to the court and to the American people who are desperate to see our nation's laws enforced." More of President Trump's moves are going into effect. In his first day in office, he ordered a freeze on the hiring of civilian employees across the executive branch. He also put an end to DEI programs within the federal government. To discuss the implications, we're joined by Rachel Gressler, a senior research fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Rachel Gressler, thank you so much for joining.
My pleasure. Great to be here.
It's great to have you with us, Rachel. So on his first day in office, President Trump ordered a freeze on the hiring of federal civilian employees throughout the executive branch. What do you make of this, and what are some of the potential effects?
Well, I think this is a really smart freeze. When you think about what any private sector new CEO coming in would do, this looks a lot like that. And it's important to note that this does include important positions like in national security, in public safety, and immigration enforcement. And of course, the president's new political appointees, it will not apply to them. And there are also some things in there like allowing agencies to have exemptions where they're needed and allowing them to reallocate staff as needed. So I think this is an important pause. It's about for 90 days before they will come back with a new plan that will target making the government more efficient. And the reason this is needed now is because we've had this explosive growth in federal employees. Over just the past 2 years alone, federal employment has increased by 134,000, and that's roughly twice as much as we've seen in the private sector.
The president also issued a flurry of executive orders, some cutting the federal diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, otherwise known as DEI. What do you think are some of these negative effects of DEI programs that Trump and his team are responding to?
Well, I think they've just seen this to have a harmful and divisive effect across the federal government, and these are not positions that were with the core functions of what the federal government is supposed to be doing.
And so how do you think that a return to what Trump and his folks may call merit-based hiring will affect the workplace? And will Trump's dismantling of the DEI programs, do you think, restore confidence among employees about fairness in the workplace?
I think it will. I think it will get back to what is the core business of government and what are the federal employees supposed to be doing to serve taxpayers. And we've seen problems arising, whether it's over DEI or in telework, where senior citizens are unable to reach anyone on the phone at the Social Security Administration, unable to get an appointment. Thousands of calls are going unanswered by veterans who are needing mental health assistance. And so it's important that it's not just the hiring freeze, but everything else that's happening as well. Restoring true merit to the federal hiring and employment process is a really important foundation of American democracy.
Lastly, President Trump's orders are putting pressure on the private sector to ditch these DEI programs. How big of an effect could this ultimately have, and how does investor interest in DEI? We've seen a ton of major corporations, from Walmart to many others, drop these DEI programs, even leading up to the inauguration.
Yeah, I think we've been seeing that happen over the past months and even year, just because they haven't been proven to be effective and helpful, and instead they're being divisive and harmful. And so this is just one more step in that direction. And so whether it's the private sector focusing on the products and the services that they're delivering to consumers, or the federal government focusing on the government services that it's delivering to taxpayers and to American citizens, I think it's just saying now the eye is really on what it needs to be in the focus of those core functions.
Rachel Gressler, really appreciate it. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
The Senate confirms Trump's second cabinet pick and tease up potential weekend votes. Our Washington correspondent Luis Martinez has the latest on the confirmation process for Trump's cabinet nominees.
This Thursday, the Senate's respective committees approved the nominations of Lee Selin to be the next director of the EPA, Chris Wright to be the next Secretary of Energy, and Doug Burgum to be the next Secretary of Interior. All three nominations will now move to the Senate floor for a full vote. Democrats opposed in committee all three nominations, citing concerns over Project 2025 and abortion rights.
Among my concerns, overturning VA's interim final rule on abortion and further privatizing of the VA care.
Now, you know, we all know that a good number of Donald Trump's nominees are very, very troubling. But this guy is he's probably at the very top of the list in terms of how dangerous he is to working people and to America. Mr. Vote is the godfather of the ultra-right.
Despite opposition from Democrats this Thursday, the Senate confirmed John Ratcliffe to be the next director of the CIA. Mr. Ratcliffe, during his confirmation hearings, vowed to increase the CIA's covert operations targeting Chinese Communist Party officials.
We will produce insightful, objective, all-source analysis, never allowing political or personal biases to cloud our judgment or infect our products. We will conduct covert action at the direction of the president, going places no one else can go and doing things no one else can do.
I, John Ratcliffe. Shortly after being confirmed on the Senate floor, John Ratcliffe was sworn in as the new director of the CIA. Senate Majority Leader John Thune has now teed up Pete Hegseth to be the next nominee to receive a full vote on the Senate floor.
Democrats have vowed to oppose the nomination of Pete Hegseth for Secretary of Defense, citing allegations of excessive drinking and sexual abuse. Pete Hegseth's nomination passed a procedural vote on Thursday on party lines. Senators Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins were Republican defectors.
But unless I can point to specific, firsthand, corroborated testimony, I'm not going to cave to pressure. I'm going to vote for his confirmation.
This is just the Democrats doing what they're doing. They're obstructing Trump putting together a team. Trump won the election. He won the electoral vote. He won the popular vote. He needs to be able to put his team together, and the Democrats are being obstructions.
This Thursday, Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski from Alaska published a statement indicating that she would vote against the confirmation of Pete Hegseth to be the next Secretary of Defense. Lisa Murkowski cited sexual abuse allegations and excessive drinking allegations for her reasoning to vote against Peter Hegseth. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio is heading to Central America next week. The Trump administration is working to stem illegal immigration and CCP influence in the region. NTD's Washington correspondent Jack Bradley has more.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio will travel to Central America and the Caribbean next week as his first trip abroad as top U.S. diplomat. Now, Rubio is expected to meet with leaders in Panama, Guatemala, El Salvador, and the Dominican Republic. Now, this comes as President Trump has said that he wants the U.S. to take back control of the Panama Canal, one of the world's most critical waterway trade routes. The U.S. government built and operated the canal in the early 20th century, and under President Jimmy Carter, control of this waterway was handed over to the Panamanian government. Trump reiterated during his inauguration speech that Chinese entities related to the Chinese Communist Party are now operating the canal.
We have been treated very badly from this foolish gift that should have never been made, and Panama's promise to us has been broken. The purpose of our deal and the spirit of our treaty has been totally violated. American ships are being severely overcharged and not treated fairly in any way, shape, or form, and that includes the United States Navy. And above all, China is operating the Panama Canal, and we didn't give it to China, we gave it to Panama, and we're taking it back.
Secretary Rubio has repeatedly said and reiterated during his confirmation hearing that the Chinese Communist Party is America's biggest adversary. After that hearing, he received unanimous support from the Senate.
The Communist Party of China leads the PRC, is the most potent and dangerous near-peer adversary this nation has ever confronted. They have elements that the Soviet Union never possessed.
Rubio's trip comes as President Trump has made ending mass illegal immigration to the U.S. as a top priority. Many illegal immigrants in the U.S. pass through the Darien Gap, then Panama, making their way up through the southern border. Now, Rubio is likely to discuss this in meetings in Panama. Last year, the U.S. and Panamanian governments signed an agreement to stem the tide of illegal immigration along the Darien Gap. Now, this is all part of the Chinese Communist Party's larger method of expanding its military influence across the world. We have the Chinese regime using its Belt and Road Initiative, which is a series of 100 different countries in building infrastructure projects in those 100 different countries to expand dual use, like ports, dual use for their military, Steve.
So, Jack, what is ultimately the danger of having the Chinese Communist Party having their hands in controlling the Panama Canal?
Well, there's the fact that they could be using it to push the U.S. out of that region. And that goes back to when President Teddy Roosevelt built this. And this was such a grand thing. And when it was handed over under the Carter administration back to the Panamanian government, the Chinese regime slowly got more and more control. And now they have their subsidiaries, a Hong Kong company that's tied to the Chinese Communist Party operating the canal there. And really the danger, a lot of experts are concerned, is that the U.S. will be pushed out of the Panama Canal. Now, our reporter Jason Blair was out on the Capitol Hill earlier today, and he's got a soundbite from Senator Josh Hawley on this. Take a look.
The Communist Party of China leads the PRC, is the most potent and dangerous near-peer adversary this nation has ever confronted. They have elements that the Soviet Union never possessed.
That was Secretary of State Marco Rubio. If we have that soundbite of Josh Hawley, let's play that now. All right, looks like we're having trouble playing that. But basically, he's saying that having the Chinese regime in that region is really a dangerous thing, and President Trump is right to be concerned about this, Steve.
Well, it's amazing how much influence the CCP has, not just in Panama and in Central America and South America, but really all over the world when you think about it. Even the Caribbean, Africa, all over. And it appears as though people are starting to take serious notice. Jack Bradley, great reporting. Thank you. Thank you for watching the Capitol Report. If you want to see our full broadcast, check us out at epochtv.com.